I'm waiting for you. Don't let me let you take it.
We're learning Maseches Eruvin, chapter 10, and the name of the chapter is Hamoitze Tefillin. Hamoitze. The one who finds the tefillin. Hamoitze Tefillin.
Look at this Mishnah.
Hadeles shebemuktzeh v'chadokim shebepirtza u'machzolois ein olim bo ela im ken gvoim min haaretz. So it's page 101. The Mishnah discusses the use of irregular doors that are not attached to the door frame in the normal fashion, but merely jammed into the doorway. Okay? The door to a backyard, and a bundle of thorns that is placed in a gap in a wall in lieu of a door. So we have the door to a backyard, bundles of thorns that is placed in a gap in a wall in lieu of a door, umachzoles, and reed mats used in lieu of doors, even if these irregular doors are tied to the doorway, eino alin boen, one may not close the entranceway with them on Shabbat, ela im ken gvoim min haaretz, unless they are suspended above the ground. The entire door dangles in mid-air when not in the closed position. So he's telling us like this. It's not here. He's telling us like this. Motzei Tefillin is the name of the chapter, but we're holding in here. Right here. In this Mishnah. So basically the Mishnah is saying that any irregular door should not be closed on Shabbat. Simple. If it's a not regular door, so in what way you will be allowed to close it, unless the door is hanging above the ground. Like this door. Look at the door is not touching the ground. It's always somewhat erased from the floor. But all these weird types of doors, not the regular types of doors, should not be closed on Shabbat. We have to see why. Are they considered muktzeh? What's wrong with them? So the Gemara points out a contradiction between this Mishnah and a Baita that also discusses irregular doors suspended from the doorway. Ureminuhu. But see that the ruling of the Mishnah is inconsistent with the following Baita. Delet hanigreret, doors that drags on the ground. It touches the ground, so it kind of creates a drag, it like collects the sand every time it touches the floor. Delet hanigreres, sometimes if they don't align the door properly, it nigreret, it touches the floor. Bless you. Umachzeres hanigreres, and a mat used as a door that drags on the ground, vekankan hanigrar, and a plow handle used in lieu of a door that drags on the ground. Bisman shekshurin utluin, when they are tied to the doorway and suspended from it, you can use them on Shabbat. Na'alin bohen v'Shabbos. One may close the entranceway with them on Shabbat. And needless to say that you can do it on Yom Tov. So according to the Baita, as long as it is suspended from the ground, it's not touching the ground, the door you're allowed to use it. The door is permitted for use even though it drags on the ground, even though it touches the ground. Unlike our Mishnah, the Mishnah said no. The Mishnah said it cannot touch the ground. So we see, Braita says one thing, and the Mishnah says something else.
There's a piece that we can put on the bottom of a door,
right,
so that it makes a good seal.
Right.
For the wind.
What do they call it? There's a name for it.
A door seal.
No, something else.
There's another thing. With another name.
To bugs not to come in also.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Bugs, wind.
So according to the Mishnah, that door is not kosher. That door is not good on Shabbat. According to the Braita, it's kosher. That's what the Reminu is coming to tell you.
Right.
But what you do is you put a piece of rubber or plastic on the bottom of that door, so it doesn't it's still, it doesn't totally get to the bottom of the door, but it cuts out the air. In New Jersey, you had to have that, because you
It's a
get-
weather strip. It's a weather.
Weather
strip.
Weather strip, because otherwise, like in the winter, when the,
I know.
That's the name. That's the
you'd
name I
have a
was looking
big
for.
draft if you didn't do that.
See, it's another piece they put on the bottom.
Sometimes they put it around the door, all around the door, because it's a crack over there. The wind comes into the house. We put
Exactly.
your hand, you can feel the wind. Open the switch plate, take the cover
Yeah.
off, put your hand in there, you're gonna feel the wind.
You don't have to take the switch plate off, you can feel it through it.
Without switch plate, you can feel the wind.
Especially in cold places, right?
Like Philadelphia.
Like Philadelphia.
Like Muncie.
Okay, weiter.
Weiter.
Amar Abaye said, so according to the Baita, as long as it is suspended from the doorway, the door is permitted for use even though it drags on the ground. But the Mishnah, on the other hand, disagrees. The Baita does not stipulate that the door be completely raised above the ground. Now, Abaye and Rava dispute how to resolve the contradiction. Amar Abaye b'sheyesh lahem tzir. Abaye said that the case in the Baita is of doors that have a pivot and are therefore
A hinge.
a hinge. Over here there's a pivot, and I like hinge better because the hinge is more of like makes more sense that the translation is a hinge than a pivot. So let's use a hinge. B'sheyesh lahem tzir. Rava Omar b'shehoya lahem tzir. Rava said that the case in the Baita is of doors that once had a hinge, and as such are recognizable as doors, even though the hinge is no longer there. It's like if you ever look at a door, and even if the hinge is not connected, you can see that there is either room for the hinge, or you can see in the past that there was a hinge in the door. So Abaye said that they currently have one, and Rava said that they had in the past a hinge attached to them. Meitive, they challenged the views of Abaye and Rava from another Baita, which also discusses irregular doors, doors that are not the usual type. Delet hanigreret, a door that drags on the ground, umachzelet hanigreret, and a mat used like a door that drags on the ground, v'kankan hanigrar, and a plow handle. Plow handle, I still have to picture plow handle that drags on the ground. What does it say, the translation by you for kankan hanigrar?
A plow handle.
No, you I know,
I don't
but
see
by him, because he has a different translation.
I don't see it.
Because kankan is usually a pitcher.
Yeah,
So
I heard of that.
why? How can kankan look like they call it plow handle?
I don't see the word kind. Oh, here.
You see it.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
got it right there.
It says, the Gemara raised an objection from another Raisa with regard to a door or a mat or a lattice that drag.
Lattice.
Lattice.
Lattice?
You know what lattice is? It's
Yeah.
when it's like,
That's machzeles. That's what mat is also.
it,
Con, wait a minute.
So kankan it says lattice.
No,
But machzeles they translate as a mat. What after mat? What is
lattice.
Lattice.
A mat
That's
or a
it.
lattice.
There you go.
Yeah, and
So it's not a-
thing
I
they
mean-
A
consider-
mat is a lattice, a mat's just a tighter lattice.
Right, maybe different type.
Always puts the knot near
Down.
the door in the bathroom. I have to keep pulling it out.
So kankan
Now
anigra
you have something to do.
I do it.
bizman shekshurin usluin. So point is, when they are tied and suspended from it,
Kind of.
shikshurin usluin, when they are tied to the doorway and not touching the ground, ugvohim min haaretz afilu melonima, even if a hairbreadth above the floor, noalin bahen, one may close the entranceway with them, close the door. V'im lav, and if they do touch the ground, if they're not suspended, ein noalin bahen, one may not close the entranceway with them. So this Braita requires that the doors not only be suspended from the doorway, but in addition they must completely raised above the ground. They should not touch the
So
ground.
to be able to swing easy. So that's why you gotta pull the mat out.
Is this partially the idea that you're going to be like making a furrow, like plowing? Because if there's dust on the ground,
From what I see up till now, it's they're not considering it a door. That's why.
oh,
That's what I'm
it's
saying.
irregular.
Yes,
So-
irregular. That's
Abnormal.
that's the emphasis. But it might go.
You can drink alone?
Yeah.
Good. I'm glad you said that. Here's your cup.
You didn't ask him, so he has to say it.
No problem.
No, but what?
That was a shocking.
But it
thing.
might.
Yeah.
Reuven, it might come to it. It might come to it. The issue of muktzah.
No, I'm good, thank you.
אתה תהיה יותר טוב, אם אתה good,
אני
you'll be
עכשיו-
better.
Oh, none for me, thanks. None for me, thanks.
No, thank you.
So why do you say
Too early for
you know,
94 octave.
if you say something, you gotta do something.
Yeah.
Right, that's we learned that
If you see
yesterday.
something, say something.
Yeah.
Oh, I gave it over to my wife yesterday. The idea that we're living in the world of Asiya, the world of action, and her father, was always do. You
Right.
gotta do something. Get it there early so you can do more.
Right.
This is always his makshav and always his
Right.
action. He always acted on
A
it.
miser icker.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's like so she approved of me learning that filming.
Wow.
She
She
gave you
pushes me out. Go learn.
l'chaim,
Yeah.
l'chaim.
Chaim
Yeah,
l'chaim.
Baruch Hashem.
Baruch Hashem, you're lucky.
Oh, very.
Some of them, they don't need help, but they want you there.
No,
Just
Right.
to see somebody, the man is not.
some of them, they don't want you there.
Very few, very few.
Very
Well,
lucky.
life happy, not
She
good.
pushes me to go learn.
That's so beautiful, I'm telling you, lucky.
Yeah, because she knows I'm a little bit of a low guy, and so she goes, you gotta go to become up to her level.
She's more learner than you are, or because
She's,
your father
she's
was?
a tzaddikus, and I'm.
All the women are
I'm
higher
normal.
than men, don't you know that?
That's why they don't put a tefillin on.
They get zachar for pushing the husband to learn.
That's
Right.
beautiful. Yeah, but she learned that from her father, because her father was like that. Otherwise, she would never be like that.
That's-
But a lot of times,
Everything's for the
like
man, I
you
agree.
see in the newer generation with the new the newlyweds, the
Yeah.
guys a lot of them don't show up in shul, and you ask them, "Well, what?" Said, "I have to help with the kids."
Exactly.
So
That's why I say he's lucky.
But the point is that they really sleep till 12 o'clock in the afternoon with their wives, and nobody else helping anything. It's
Yeah.
just like
all the girls
they're cruising
want
in. They're just-
all the girls want learners now, so they.
And that's
used to
cruising.
be, they don't want anymore.
That's changed.
That's
That's over.
Finland with their father.
That's right.
They want to hang out with someone.
You said it right. They
You're right.
cruise in. They get
Mine-
the cars, they get the wives.
She
they get
never
the-
learned with
It's
her
11:30.
But she saw him
Chinese,
probably learning it.
I don't know. And she
They say it, but
Nothing.
when
no, she met it.
Zero.
The guy is running a cold.
She tells me,
That's beautiful.
you were just saying yesterday
lucky.
that then they when
Otherwise,
the
she-
money runs out, the love runs out of the window.
forced me to go.
That girl is the real
Yeah.
deal. I mean, she's
never
not gonna be a
learned.
chabad,
That's so
she's
nice.
the real deal. when it
He's
comes
lucky
to
too, though.
Tzaddiket.
We're all lucky. We're all lucky.
that.
A lot of men cannot come and learn only because the wife is interrupting his life. Even if he has to have 5 minutes for himself, she keeps him busy.
No, my wife's happy enough to
כל
have
אחד
her.
במזל שלו, תאמין.
She learns too. She has to share with
Yeah.
somebody.
They say about Rabbi Ovadia, he came one time from he was giving shiurim all over the country,
Right.
and he came home at like 12 o'clock at night. His wife waited for him. She prepared supper, and
So,
she
yeah.
waited for him.
It's like the Rebbe.
So he came. So she told him, "Eat supper." So he said, "But on the way from the in the car on the way to here, I was thinking about a few answers to questions that people ask me. So I want to write the answers down. And as soon as 5 minutes, I'm writing the answers down. I'm writing the answers down, and I will eat supper." So his wife's sitting on the couch. She fell asleep. She wakes up at 5 o'clock in the morning. She sees still writing answers. Supper is not, supper is waiting.
Still waiting. Now you can breakfast something. Wow. Tzaddik, Katamari.
Yeah.
I'm telling you.
Most people come home, they're starving, they just jump at the food, they
Right.
eat.
Yeah,
This
that's
guy is
Guilty.
But you know, most of the men, I tell a lot of wives, when your men come from work, first thing you do, feed them. and you can get anything out of him. If you don't feed him, he will fight you, scream at you. He's starving, he's hungry, he's tired, he's everything. But once you eat, you can move.
Well,
anymore.
it's common sense.
Everything
People
comes.
don't think straight if they're starving, right?
Absolutely, you can't.
Anyhow, so Abaye Metarsetame, Abaye explained the Baita in a way that's consistent with his opinion. Rava Metarsetame and
They
Rava.
use a nice word here for that, if I might say, Menashe.
Sure.
They say Abai reconciles the objection.
Reconcile the
It's
objection.
really a good word because he doesn't just answer it, but
Right.
he brings them together.
Right.
Reconciles to bring together.
But each one does it in his own way, right? So Abaye reconciles it in his way, and Rava Metoras Letame. If you translate just the word, if I didn't see the English translation, I would say Rava answers it Letame according to his reasoning,
Ah.
according to his tam,
Sense.
his explanation, right? So, or sheyesh la entzir, or shegvoim min haaretz. Now they say either the doors have a hinge, in which case they are permitted even though they are partially touching the ground, they drag on the ground, or shegvoim min haaretz, or that they are completely raised above the ground, in which case they are permitted even without a hinge. Rava metaretz letame, so that was the teretz of Rava, of Abaye, and Rava reconciles in his way, in a manner that is consistent with his opinion. Shayala and sir or shegvoim min haaretz. Either that the doors had a hinge in the past, or that they are completely raised above the ground, in which case they are permitted even though they never had a hinge. Tanu Rabbanan. You say how they hanging above the ground without a hinge, that's another story, but he says the shegvoim min haaretz, so even if they don't have a pivot, if they never had a hinge.
So it could be hanging on a rope.
Right,
Or something, you know.
like the barn doors, they have this, it's like
Yeah.
almost like a track that they go right and left. So, Tanu Rabban, you know what's a barn door? You saw it?
I
Yeah?
have now.
Oh, good. Stylish, right? And then you have those pocket doors that go inside the wall. You saw it?
Yes, yes,
It's nice
My
also.
son builds those.
Yeah, the same
Yeah.
way
We
with
don't have,
them.
we don't have so much
He's
space.
fond of those
Hi, Debbie.
because they don't take up space. They
Shmuel,
disappear,
Yeah, it's
and
nice.
you don't have this problem.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. And not as easy to work
No,
with,
he-
and they
It's supposed
probably
to be
have a little
coming
bit
today,
more
hopefully.
of
But you know what they?
complications.
Debbie.
It is.
Stop it.
He
You're
showed
not
me when they
having
came
anybody
out with
come
a
down.
new way of doing it, so that
Why
it's
should I have
smooth
somebody
and
to pay for it
nice.
so I can
Wow.
have somebody for free?
Really?
I thought your son was an
Yes.
accountant. That's the other son.
Another son.
Wonderful.
You got a
I
lot.
have a few sons, bro.
Oh, Baruch Hashem.
No, I'm not gonna get money from you.
I didn't tell you about the grandchildren yet.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
only up to the second son.
Okay.
Okay.
So far we have accountant
Sure.
and
A
door
builder.
maker,
A builder,
Builder.
wow.
Bye.
Yeah, Baruch Hashem.
contractor, GC.
He's a builder. He's a builder.
What's his license plate like?
His Instagram is born to build. And he, has-
Wow.
he shows what he's
Yeah, the
Wonderful.
guy, the
Wonderful
mocker
build.
in New Jersey, his license plate was Kablan.
Kablan, yeah.
Yeah.
Kablan
Kablan.
is the GC,
Yeah.
general contractor. I like the word Yazam. Yazam is the guy who comes up with the idea to what the contractor should build.
That's a higher level of Chachma.
Yazam.
That was this morning.
Yeah,
Higher level of Chachma.
yeah.
That's you?
I try to
Should be much later.
to be. I like that actually to see something that is building, it's being built up, something is being created, physical, tangible. It's not like stocks, bought and sold, but it's yeah. Anyhow, so
Chaim.
Chaim,
A light-filled month.
it's a chodesh hashlishi, month of Kislev is the third month.
עכשיו אנחנו עושים לחודש כסלו.
Yeah.
מתי היום?
Tishrei Cheshvan Kislev. So Shlishi is something special about the third
זה
month.
כמו יום שלישי, פעמיים כי טוב.
Yeah, פעמיים כי טוב. So,
פעמיים כי טוב.
תנו
פעמיים
רבות.
וויסקי.
Tanu Rabbanon,
Another one?
I only had one. Tanu Rabbanon, Suchei, Koitzim, Vachavilin, Sheitkian, Lepirtze, Shebechotze. branches from thorn bushes and bundles of wood that were prepared for use as a makeshift door to close a gap in a courtyard wall. Courtyard wall. So it's like in Israel they have sabris, right? The
Cactus.
Cactus, yeah. The cactus.
Not the people.
So the cactus are used as fences. If you want a good fence, you put a cactus tree, a bush, and it's over here. It
So
says
they
suchet.
take the cactus and leave you the tree.
Yeah, but nobody can pass through because it's very it's
A lot of
thorns, right?
Yeah.
So branches from thorn bushes and bundles of wood that were prepared for use as a door to close a gap in a courtyard wall. So they use it as a door, but really it's just sealing the breach, or sealing a hole. Bizman shekshur mutloin, if they are hanging, suspended, noalin b'hem b'Shabbat, you can use them on Shabbat. Ve'en tzirich lomar b'Yom Tov, and you can use them, obviously, needless to say that you can use them on Yom Tov. Tani Rabbi Chia delet almana nigreret. What is a widowed door? A widowed door, a door that is a widow. She doesn't have a husband. Let's see what it means. A widowed door which lacks certain standard components, missing certain components. What type?
Doorknob.
No, they say the drags on the ground. That's it. Missing component. And alin ba, one may not close an entrance way with it. That's what the Mishnah said. Hey chadami delat almana. What is a widowed door? Ika de amri de chad shipa veika de amri de leitle gishma. One said it's just a door, a single board, like maybe people would use it in a sukkah, a single board. And there are those who say that it is a door that has no crossbeam to bind the parts of the door together. A door missing a crossbeam. Okay? So one is a simple board, and another one is a little bit more to it, but that doesn't have a crossbeam. So that is delet almana, widowed door. Two opinions. What is widowed door? Amar Rav Yehuda hay medurta. This bonfire, medurta, a bonfire that consists of logs piled up on the side and logs over the top of them. Mimala lemata shari, to construct the pyre, or the pier. Yes, the pyre. From the top down, to hold the logs in position on top before piling logs on the sides beneath them.
A pyre means a bonfire.
Right.
Yeah, log
Is,
burner.
is permitted on Yom Tov. Mimata lemala asir, but to construct from the bottom up, to pile logs on the sides first and then place logs across the top, it is prohibited. So milamala lamata, if you're constructing it from the top down, it's permitted on Yom Tov. If you're doing it from the bottom up, it's an issue to do it on Yom Tov. V'chen bi'ata, and the same applies to an egg. Bi'ata is an egg in Aramaic. Bi'a, okay, with an ayin. Bi'ata, an egg. One who wishes to place eggs on a grill must first hold the eggs in position in mid-air and then place the grill underneath it. Let's see in 13, what does it mean? It says in 13, this is the first explanation given by Rashi. Alternatively, Rashi explains that eggs are placed across the top of two logs. What happened if somebody puts an egg on the barbecue? I've never seen an egg being roasted like this.
They do that, but not
It doesn't break it?
Doesn't it
The heat?
explode?
Yeah.
You have to make a little hole in it first, so the pressure escapes.
How do you make that hole without breaking it? A needle?
Oh, with the needle, yeah.
Or the point of a narrow pointed knife.
Interesting.
Some people
You ever seen it?
I never saw it,
egg-
but I-
a
You have
needle.
roasted eggs. There is roasted eggs.
Right, but what is roasted eggs?
Yeah, what you just
I
said.
don't know.
I know poached eggs.
Poached eggs is different. You open
Right.
it up and do the whole thing.
In
like
hot
that.
water.
What could happen is to put the eggs on the grill. The pressure might break it.
Exactly.
On a
That's what I'm
slow
saying.
flame, maybe you'll make it hard, maybe.
I'll finish that.
Or burn the inside.
Right.
The only way to boil the egg is by the water. But on the grill, it's pressure the heat.
Right, so it says over here,
Yeah.
applies to an egg. One who wishes to place eggs on a grill must hold the eggs in position in mid-air and then place them on the grill underneath it. Let's see, v'chen kidra, and the same applies to a pot. One who wishes to place a pot across the top of two barrels must first hold the pot in position in mid-air and then move the barrels underneath it. Okay, so hold the pot, and this is the barrel. So you don't put the pot on the barrels. You rather hold it mid-air and you move the barrels and then place it down. Now why? We have to figure out why. So he says v'chen puya, and the same applies to Let's see. Well, it's a Yom Tov. It tells you that in Yom Tov there's a special permission.
There's way of doing things. Right?
Way of doing it. So it says the main horizontal section of the bed. Zog l'chaim Rabbi Yaakov. V'chen puya, and the same applies to a barrel. One who wishes to place a barrel across the top of two other barrels must first hold the top of the barrel in position in mid-air before placing the lower one underneath it. So this is this is the way for things to get done on Yom Tov, not in the usual way. Rather, like with a pyre, it's from the top to the bottom, not from the bottom going up. And we see this, it applies to a pot, and applies to a bed, and applies to a barrel.
So
Let's see.
They're holding these things up.
And then they're bringing
And
the
they
bottom
bring the
into
bottom
it.
piece in.
Correct.
Rabbi, in Moed Katan, I don't know. If you want to make construction on Chol Moed, you have to make one here, one here. You jump spaces to the Shinur.
It's a similar thing from the top going down.
A wall, if you want to build a wall.
So it says one of the cases of the Mishnah was that of a bundle of thorns. A bundle of thorns used to fill a gap in a fence. You're closing the hole in the fence. The Gemara presents homiletical teaching related to this. Midrash, something beautiful. Amar le Yahud Tzeduki le Rabbi Yeshua ben Chananya. Tzeduki came to Rabbi Yeshua ben Chananya. You know the Tzedukim did not believe in the oral Torah. They only right ben Enecha, right between the eyes. It says ben Enecha. They put right between the eyes. So Amar le Yahud Tzeduki le Rabbi Yeshua ben Chananya chidako, thorny one. He called him a thorn, a kots.
Man of thorns.
Thorny one, man of thorns. Zechtiv b'chu, it says about you, toivam kechedek, which means it is written their best, the righteous of Israel, the tzaddikim, is like a thorn. Why? It says in 14, it's a pasuk in Micha. The prophet Micha says, toivam kechedek. The best ones are like thorn. Why? Amar lei, Rabbi Yeshua said to him, Shatyo, Shefila Sefer Diko. He told the Tzeduki, Rabbi Yeshua ben Chananya told the Tzeduki, you are a fool. Go down towards the end of the pasuk. What is the end of the pasuk? So he was reading just half the pasuk. We are very familiar with this in our time. People only quote one part of the statement.
Right.
Because
Show the whole video.
They
don't
don't
show that little clip. Show the
What
whole
happened
thing.
to Pinchas in this video?
Right. They show. So this Tzeduki, nothing new under the sun.
On the thorn.
Nothing new under the sun. And the Tzeduki was only mentioned Toivim Kechedek, but he didn't read Sefer Dikor. What was Sefer Dikor? Dichtiv Yosho Mimesucha. The upright among them is better than a shelter. Clearly, the pasuk is giving compliments, not derogatory. Yosho Mimesucha.
Here it says the opposite. It says the most upright is worse than a thorn hedge.
The upright among them is better than a shelter. That's what they write here. Clearly, the pasuk is complimentary, not derogatory. And he writes in 16, the second part of the verse teaches that our righteous people protect us, are protecting us like a sukkah. So it says, "Vela mai toivim kechedek." So what does it mean? Their best is like a thorn. Kisheim shechadokim halolu meginin al pir. So just as thorns guard the breach, kach toivim shebonu meginim aleinu. The tzaddikim protecting us. Seemingly, you think thorns are something bad. When it's something bad, when they prick you, but when you put them to close the breach, it's something great. Davar acher, another interpretation, Tevum kachedek, their best is like thorns, shemehadkin es Hashem legehenam. That the righteous of Israel crush the wicked in Gehenna. Shenemar, Kumi vodoishi vaszion. This is a apostle also in Micha. Kumi vodoishi vaszion, ki karnech osim barzel ufarsoisayich osim nechusho, vahadikois amim rabim. Arise and thresh, daughter of Sion, because your horn I will make iron, and your hoof I will make brass, and you will crush many people. So the tzaddikim are going to protect us.
And in Gehinnom?
And the Rishonim, the wicked people. But it says, Amcha Yisrael kulam tzaddikim. Amcha Yisrael kulam tzaddikim. So it's only to Rishonim, those who are bothering the Jewish people, will suffer from the tzaddikim. Next Mishnah.
You have to always think, though, when it comes to thorns, we think bad.
No, I thought positive that it protects
Hashem made
it.
So if Hashem made it, He put it in the world. If He put it in the world, it means it benefits us. So the first reaction should be, oh, it's a good thing. Show me how it's good. I don't see it yet.
It was bad, that's what it is. Afterwards, it's good.
Initially, it's good. Hashem made it.
Initially, a lot of things good. If a guy doesn't, the other guy should have it, it's always good for him. But when you get it, it's not good for yourself.
I said when it pricks you, it's not good. But if it protects you protects your property, suddenly it's becoming positive.
But language is important. And which do we say first? The first we should say is it protects us.
As long as it doesn't bother you.
Tzaddikim protect us. That's why Micha was saying that tzaddikim are like thorns. Not in a derogatory way.
Sometimes you need something to bother you.
We were talking about yesterday,
Right.
which is the
Which
perspective?
one is
the perspective that we should
Exactly.
automatically have is it's a good thing.
The right
First, show me
perspective.
how it's good. You want to show it's bad? That's easy. Anybody can show bad.
Right. That's what I was telling you. It's a good thing. And the tzadduki saw it in a bad way. Tzadduki was the one who sees it in a. So, oh, you tzaddikim are like thorns. Tell me you're a fool. Tzaddikim are like thorns that they protect us like.
Pay the money and go.
So
Not paying the money.
All right, then don't go.
the Mishnah
Walk here.
resumes its previous discussion of carrying in one domain while standing in another. Remember we spoke about a guy that was fishing in Shus Harabim to Shus HaYochid and vice versa. So, Lo yamod adam b'Rishus HaYochid, the person may not stand in a private domain in Shus HaYochid and pick up a key laying in Shus Harabim. The key is in Shus Harabim, sticking his hand from the window of his house. He's in Shus HaYochid and picks up the key in Shus Harabim. B'Rishus Harabim v'yiftach b'Rishus HaYochid. You should not stand in Rishus Harabim and pick up a key that is laying in the Rishus HaYochid.
So what's the chiddush with this? We already had this with the fishing.
Let's see. V'yiftach b'Rishus HaYochid
This is a key.
and unlock a door.
Over there you can do it, why can't you do this?
And unlock a door in the Rishus HaYochid because he might inadvertently bring the key into Rishus HaRabim. Why shouldn't he open the door? He is standing in Rishus HaRabim. The key is already in the door. Why shouldn't he open the door in Rishus HaYochid? He says because of the chashash. The Mishnah tells us that he would carry the key with him back to Rishus HaRabim.
Okay, because
Unless,
it's a protection.
yes, unless Elaim Ken also mechitza gavar so tvachim, unless he had erected a partition, a mechitza of 10 tvachim high, to convert the area in which he stands into Rishus HaYochid. Div Rabbi Meir, these are the words of Rabbi Meir. Amulei, the Chachamim said to Rabbi Meir, Maaseh b'shuk shel patomim shel Yerushalayim. It happened in the butcher's market in Yerushalayim. You know, it's patomim. It's people who they feed the animals to fatten the animals.
Yeah,
like you say itro, they used to mefatem.
They still do this.
They fatten
What do you
animals.
call those
That's the business.
Little lamb things that everybody likes to eat. The what do you call them?
Lamb chops.
No, there's an animal. It's an animal.
Goose.
No, the goose too. But all right, forget it. I can't remember.
Don't feel
blocked
bad.
out.
You don't mind yourself later, don't feel bad.
The
As
slav.
you're driving home, you
He's
think
talking about the slav. You're talking about those fatty birds.
No,
They're
an
run
animal.
fast.
It's like a sheep. But they don't even. They're born and they just stick them in a thing and they keep putting the food in and they.
Usually they do it to
No,
davar
what's
acher.
the
They
name?
do.
When you walk in the zoo, you don't mind yourself. Don't
No, it
worry.
wasn't a zoo. You get it in the.
I also, but I can think of it. I can't think of the
You
name.
both can together at the same time. doesn't it?
Yeah.
Kosher, but it's
But it happened in the butcher's market in Yerushalayim. So that was the butcher's market in Yerushalayim. Shunalim wanichas haftav chonsha gavar petach. Their custom was to lock the door and to leave the key by the window next to the door. the window still having the dimensions of Rishus HaYochid. The window is Rishus HaYochid, and that this proves that it is permissible to handle a key in Rishus HaYochid while standing in Rishus HaRabim. Rabbi Yossi says no, it was not a market of butchers, it was a market of wool merchants market. So the Gemara points out that the incident cited by the sages is irrelevant to Rabbi Meir's position. And how are we to understand the rabbi's challenge to Rabbi Meir's position? Rabbi Meir is talking about public domain. He prohibited one to stand in Rishus HaRabim. You're not allowed to stand in Rishus HaRabim and move objects in Rishus HaYochid. Umehadri inu karmelis. And the sages retorted with a case of a person standing in a karmelis. It was not standing in Rishus HaRabim, rather it was standing in a karmelis. The incident cited by them took place in Yerushalayim, and the streets of Yerushalayim are only a karmelis. They're not Rishus HaRabim. The Amar Rabba Bar Bar Chana Amar Rabbi Yochanan Yerushalayim ilmoled l'asisyon inos balaylo. The city of Yerushalayim were not that its doors were closed at night. Back then, they used to close the doors of Yerushalayim at night. Chayovim olam mishum Rishus HaRabim. One would be liable there for carrying in Rishus HaRabim, but since its doors are closed at night, it is not considered Rishus HaRabim, but rather it's considered karmelis. And karmelis is rabbinical. Rishus HaRabim, there's only two rishus that are biblical. Karmelis in Makom Ptur is not biblical. Okay?
You have the walls over there where the kotel is.
So that makes the streets karmelis.
So that you have the wall where the kotel is. So if they close that door and you're inside by the kotel, it's a karmelis or a...
The streets of Yerushalayim called karmelis because of not today, but back then the doors were to be closed.
the gates from outside.
Yeah, they closed the walls. Amar Rav Papa kan koidem shenifetzu haprotzes kan achas nifetzu haprotzes. Here, Rabbi Yochanan said when he discussed the status of Yerushalayim before breaches were made in its wall. Kan le'achar, here in the Mishnah, the incident cited by the sages took place after breaches were made in its walls. From that point, the city was no longer surrounded by valid partitions and its streets assumed the status of Rishus HaRabim. After there was protzes, it was breached in many places, it was no longer considered karmelis, rather it was called Rishus HaRabim. The last part of the Mishnah is relevant to the case of the gates of a garden. Gates of a garden. Rabbi Meir does in fact rule restrictively, even in the case of one who stands in a karmelis, and it is so the case that the sage's challenge is a Rachik Omar, and this is what Rabbi Meir is actually saying. A person should not stand in Rishus HaYochid and unlock the door, even though the door is in karmelis, but karmelis is not Rishus HaYochid, and vice versa. Unless he made a mechitza 10 tefachim. Hi, did Rabbi Meir. These are the words of Rabbi Meir. So Meir is more machmir. So they said to him, the rabbis are challenging Rabbi Meir. They said to him, but it happened with the butcher's market in Yerushalayim. They used to lock the doors. They put the key by the window, and the window is Rishus HaYochid. So Rabbi Yossi says it was a wool merchant, not a butcher's market.
But nobody's going to want to have wool on Yontif for Shabbos. I could see, Yontif, you want a steak, so, you borrow a steak from the guy, for the butcher.
The point is that the rabbis want to prove Rabbi Meir that here's an example where it's permissible to handle a key that is in Rishus HaYochid while you're standing in a karmelis. Tanu Rabon and Pischi Sharagino, the doors of garden gateways, which provides access between a garden and Rishus HaRabim. So it provides access between a karmelis and Rishus HaRabim. This is Pischi Sharagino, the doors of a garden gateways. Bizman Sheshlam Beisham Ifnim. When they have a gatehouse on the inside, there is a booth with the dimensions of Rishus HaYochid. What is the dimension of Rishus HaYochid? Is 10 by 4. One may unlock the lock the gate from the inside, the garden side, while standing in the gate house, but from the Reshus Harabim side, where there is no gatehouse. Any area, Reshus HaYochid, any area measuring at least 4 tfachim by 4 tfachim, and enclosed by partition of at least 10 tfachim high. 4 by 4 and 10. Okay? So over here we're dealing Tanu Rabbanon, which says when they have a gatehouse on the inside, one may unlock and lock the gate from the inside. It says if the gatehouse is on the outside, on the Reshus Harabim, the side of the gate is facing Reshus Harabim, what we call open to the outside, one may unlock the lock, one may unlock and lock the gate from the outside while standing in the gatehouse, but not from the garden side. He has to be outside to unlock or lock the gate. Mikan, if there is a gatehouse on each side, he can do it either way. However, gates that do not have a gatehouse on either side, asurin kan v'chan, may not be opened at all from either side, which this is the Mishnah that we learned before, that irregular door can be a problem on Shabbos because it's forbidden to stand either in Reshus Harabim or in a Karmelis and handle a key in Reshus HaYochid. V'chen chanuyos apsur Reshus Harabim, and similarly stores that open into the Reshus Harabim, if the lock is below 10 tefachim, one may bring a key on Erev Shabbos before Dasku Manicho Beskupo and leave it in on the threshold of the door, which is also a Karmelis. The next day, one may take the key and unlock and lock the door with it. And then he can put it back on the threshold. Remember, a threshold has an interesting status because it could be both in Reshus HaYochid and Reshus Harabim.
So it's like a no man's land, like a neutral zone, or
it's a questionable zone. It's a questionable zone, and we discussed it before. If it's long, it's not long. How wide it is, but it's creating another dilemma.
Right. You get 5 yards for encroaching the neutral zone.
Right.
Or in North Korea, shot.
However, when the lock is above 10 tefachim, and therefore Reshus HaYochid, one cannot carry a key between it and the threshold, which is a Karmelis. Instead, the following procedure may be observed. Maybe Mafteach Merev Shabbos, one may bring a key on Shabbos Eve, and leaves it in the lock. The next day, one may take the key, unlock and lock the door with it, and then put it back in its place on the top of the lock. Rabbi Meir, these are the words of Meir. Even if the lock is above 10 tefachim, is allowed to bring a key. Maybe Mafteach Merev Shabbos, or he can bring a key on the Shabbos Eve and leaves it on the threshold. The next day, one may take the key and unlock and lock the door with it, and then put it back in its place on the threshold, or on a windowsill above the doorway, provided the steel is less than 4 tefachim wide. So if the windowsill measures 4 by 4 tefachim, it would be Reshus HaYochid, in which case one is forbidden to put the key there. Because that would constitute transferring of the key from one Reshus to another Reshus. From a Karmelis, the threshold, to Reshus HaYochid, the windowsill. So over here he considers the Karmelis as the threshold, he considers it a Karmelis. Since the Baita said, and similarly stores, which implies a comparison between this case and the preceding one of a garden, which is a Karmelis, Miklad, the Viskupas Karmelis Askinas, it follows that we are dealing here with a threshold which is also a Karmelis. Based on this fact that the threshold is a carmelis, the Gemara proceeds to no difficulty in the bite. What is the size of the lock, of this lock mentioned in the bite? If the lock is not 4 tefachim square, it is only a mokum ptur. And Rabbi Meir would not have prohibited one to move a key from the threshold to it when it is above 10 tefachim. If it is 4 tefachim square, in such a case would the rabbis have stated that one may do the following. Even when the lock is above 10 tefachim, and therefore it's considered Reshus HaYochid. Maybe Mafteach Me'erev Shabbos, when Yichud Be'Skupa, one may bring a key on Shabbos Eve and leave it on the threshold, L'mocho, Pesach V'Nol Boy. The next day, take the key, unlock, and lock the door with it, U'machziru Le'Skupa, and put it back in its place on the threshold. Or L'chalon Shal Gava Pesach, or a windowsill which is above the doorway. If the lock is 4 tefachim square, the sages could not possibly have permitted this. But he's transferring, he's carrying from Carmelus to Reshus HaYochid. Actually, the lock is not 4 tefachim square, but the door is thick enough to allow one to carve into it to complete the top surface of the lock to the full 4 tefachim. So it's combined with the door.
What does that mean?
You have a lock that is 4 tefachim, it becomes a mokum ptur, and that makes it gives you more leniency to handle the lock on Shabbos.
So it has huge...
So he says, it said, what if it's less than 4 tefachim, and I'm using the thickness of the door to combine together to 4 tefachim. It says, he actually showed you a picture of it. It's an interesting locks back then.
Right, so
see
really wide, really tall and deep. Big.
Thank you. They didn't have my friend Danny to make ones with push buttons.
So,
Shabbos locks.
V'yesh v'lo Rashimu le'dalad u'v'o pligi, and Rabbi Meir and the rabbis disagree in the following point. Rabbi Meir maintains that we carve to complete the necessary dimensions, since the potential for this exits, we view the lock as if it is already enlarged. Since you have the potential, I view it as already 4 tefachim. According to the lock, is a Reshus HaYochid when it is above 10 tefachim. The rabbis maintain that we do not carve to complete the necessary dimensions. We do not take the potential into account, but consider the lock as it presently stands, less than 4 tefachim wide, and therefore a mokum ptur. So if it's less than 4 tefachim, it's mokum ptur. If it's more, it turns into Reshus HaYochid. So this is an interesting machlokes about actual and potential. Right? Do I consider, according to Rabbi Meir, the potential, since we have that potential, it's as if it's already there. According to Chachamim, I look at the reality the way it is. Like you say, En la'dain el ma she'en bo. You have potential, it's beautiful, but what the situation is right now. It's like it says that when Hashem was about to save Ishmael, the Malachim said to him, well, what are you doing? You know this guy's a Perodom. Yeah. So he told him, Ba'asher Usham, right? He says, how is he now?
Right now he's right.
Right now, is he tzaddik or Rosha? He said, it's tzaddik, I got to save him.
The potential's later, but in order to do chuvas, that's why I should show.
So if we would consider the potential, he should have been dead.
No.
Because the potential...
All toy for the potential.
Yeah,
Right.
actually,
No, it says Shmuel did the tshuva at the end of his life, because it says that in the when they went to the Levaya of Avram,
he walked
he
behind.
walked behind Yitzchak.
But I got a question though. If that's why Hashem saved Ishmael, that's good. But what when we have the halakha about the kid that's going to be a ganaf and a bad guy, and the parents say this kid.
But no, he's talking about, it says Chalil olav Shabbos achat shelo yachal Shabbos is harbe. So that's not a potential that he's going to Mechal Shabbos. It's for sure, because he's taken by the goyim. is for sure going to Mechal Shabbos.
That mitzvah about taking the kid out and
Saving him, because you know somebody
It's still pure.
kidnaps a kid,
yeah,
God forbid,
right, God forbid.
and you know he was kidnapped by Goyim,
Right.
not by Hasidim in Bnei Brak. He was kidnapped by Goyim.
To make him give a get. You know,
Saying that by the way.
So,
Lubavitch is good, but they practice.
so yeah, also Lubavitchers in Bnei Brak. But anyway, the point is that you wouldn't. Rabbi Lando, the chief rabbi of Bnei Brak,
Yeah.
was Lubavitch, Moshe Lando, his son. Anyhow, so the point is that he's for sure going to Mechal Shabbos. It's not potential.
So boom, boom, boom. Okay.
Yeah.
And it never happened. I know.
Yeah, I actually heard recently a story with there was a family in the Holocaust that the daughter was saved by some kind of a church, mission, whatever. They saved her,
Missionary,
and they raised her to. She was already a grown up when she left, and she was reunited with her father. But so it was so many years. So her father didn't know how to get her out of the education that she had for many years. So, but he wanted to have a connection with his daughter. So he was walking on eggshells. On one hand, he's making kiddush and he's participating, and then she has the tzelem in her room.
She's eating the Hitler.
So he doesn't know. And the story goes that one day he gets into a room and he sees her bowing to it or praying to her, standing in front of the tzelem and praying to it.
Yoshkele.
And
So then what happens?
he breaks down and she breaks down and she
breaks
so
down, they
from
both
that
put
point from that point she started changing, but
She did
it wasn't
tshuva.
yeah.
So the father crying.
But it wasn't her fault. She's a teenage
Right,
Nizhbo.
right,
It's
right,
like
I got
she
that.
was raised by them.
I got
That's
it.
all she knew.
Hello.
I'm relaxed. You relaxed.
Amar Bibi Barabai. Amar Bibi Barabai Shmamina Meho. Matniso Tlas. You can learn 3 lessons from this Braita. Number 1, Shmamina Choykikin Lehashlim. We learn that we carve to complete the necessary dimensions, since the potential for this exists. We view the lark as if it already enlarged, like Rabbi Meir. Ushmamina hodar be Rabbi Meir misharigino. And we'll learn another lesson that Rabbi Meir retracted his ruling regarding garden gates. He retracted his ruling forbidding one to stand in a Carmelis and move object into Reshus HaYochid. Meaning he became more lenient that you are allowed to move items, objects from Carmelis into Reshus HaYochid. Ushomas mino, lesson number 3, Shomas mino mederabonon isa leRav Dimi, and we learned from the position of the rabbis that we view, the view of Rav Dimi is correct. The Chioso Rav Dimi, Omar Rabbi Yochanan, from when Rav Dimi came from Eretz Yisrael to Bavel, he reported the following in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, in an area that is less than 4 tfochim by 4 tfochim, which is a mokim ptur, mutar livnei reshus harabim livnei reshus hayochid lechatef olo. We learned it many times before that it's permissible for those who are in reshus hayochid or reshus harabim lechatef olo, it means to adjust their loads. Chatef is loshen ksefaim, is the things that are on your shoulders. You're allowed to adjust your load. The only condition is shelo yachlifu ulvad shelo yachlifu. They are not allowed to exchange from one to another, to transfer from Reshus harabim to Reshus hayochid using the mokim ptur as the intermediate in between. It is evident that the rabbis agree with this ruling in as much as they prohibit one to transfer a key from the threshold from Carmelis to a window sill, which is 4 tefachim wide, Reshus hayochid via the lock mokim ptur. So we see it's not so simple in a case where there's no eruv. It's not so simple to take a key in a Reshus hayochid or vice versa and opening a door. This is a machlokes on this with Rabbi Meir and the rabbis and Rav Dimi. The next Mishnah, the Mishnah continues to discuss laws relevant to closing of doors, to the closing of doors.
Push button on your...
The subject of this Mishnah is a bolt that is wedged into a hole in a threshold to hold a door in place.
It's allowed to put it on?
Neger. So bolt is usually the pin that sticks out of the door. You know, some doors they have in Israel. They have extra protection that when you lock the door, there are things that come on top and bottom and the sides. So Mishnah discusses laws relevant to closing doors. The subject of the Mishnah is a bolt that is wedged into a hole in a threshold to hold the door. So that could be just a door stopper also. Something that sticks out from the threshold and stops the door from going freely. Negel.
Deadbolt.
Deadbolt. Deadbolt is the lock itself, right?
The bolt.
Right. It sticks
bolt,
out.
yeah.
But over here, they're talking about something that's permanently
Like a
sticking
holder,
out,
holder.
seemingly something sticking out and just stops it in the threshold.
Oh.
That's what he says. He says a bolt that is wedged into a hole in a threshold to hold the door in place. It's not for to use, the functionality is not for a lock, it's more like holding the door from not opening too much.
So in other words, the door would normally open in, they put something in a hole in the ground, like a metal rod, and now it can't
It
move.
stops it, yeah. It's a door stopper.
Like
Maybe-
not to hit the wall, but the opposite side.
Yeah. Maybe a primitive door stopper. I don't know. So let's see. Neger sheyesh beroishu glustra. A bolt that has a knob on its end. A knob. Rabbi Lezer oiser. Rabbi Lezer prohibits its use. Rabbi Yosi matir. Rabbi Yosi says you're allowed to. Amar Rabbi Lezer. Rabbi Lezer cited support for his Maseh b'chneses shebetveria. Happened in a synagogue with Knesset in Tveria. Shon nogim boheter. That they acted. They said it's mutter according to the lenient view. They used such a bolt on Shabbos. Ad shebo Rabban Gamliel v'azakenim v'asur lo. Until Rabban Gamliel came with the elders and told them that it's asur. They forbade them to do so. Rabbi Yossi maintains that the exact opposite took place. They were stringent, and comes Rabban Gamliel and the zakenim and told them you're allowed to do it. They according to the restrictive view, so we'll see the Gemara will discuss exactly what happened. Benital beigdo, the Gemara qualifies the dispute in the Mishnah if the bolt can be picked up by the cord to which it is tied. It is tied to the door with a cord, and this cord is sufficiently strong for the bolt to be raised and moved by it. Everyone, Rabbi Lezer and Rabbi Yossi, would agree that the bolt's use is permitted, since the bolt is tied to the door in an adequate fashion. It is apparent that its use is only as a doorstop and cannot be misconstrued as a permanent addition to the structure of the building. Keep ligay, when Rabbi Lezer and Rabbi Yossi argue, when the bolt cannot be picked up by the cord to which it is tied, the cord is weak and would immediately snap if one were to move the bolt with it. The mouse of glustra, since there is a knob on the end of the bolt, teras kliolo. It has the status of a kli, a utensil, and therefore its use cannot be misconstrued as an act of construction. Nobody would think you are constructing something because it looks like a kli. And one master Rabbi Lezer holds that since the bolt cannot be picked up by the cord to which it is tied, it may not be used. Doesn't look like a kli, and it's a problem to use it on Shabbos. Buchim tiyu, buchim tiyu.